I'm Catherine Ross, and I'm here live from the NYSE. Jim Cramer's off this morning, so joining me is Jeff Marks, Action Alerts Plus Senior Portfolio Analyst. Jeff, let's start with Apple, which is our real money stock of the day, because it's a very trade-sensitive stock. Now, when you look at this stock, especially the September 1st tariffs going into effect, and that impacts the Apple Watch, the AirPods, the HomePod, what should investors do with Apple right now?
So, as you said, Apple's squarely in the crosshairs of trade right now. That's why on our August members-only conference call that we had last month, we got another one coming up soon next week. We described Apple as you look at Apple as a week-to-week basis. It's, as to put it in like some football parlance, it's like it's got a bad hamstring, and each week it's got to get tested by the doctors and cleared before it's good to go. So Longbow is out. I think they're out today talking about tariffs. It's that type of EPS impact to the stock. But are we already forgetting that smart piece of research from JP Morgan last week that said because of falling DRAM prices and NAND prices, that the bill of materials that Apple puts in their new phones, that's a margin upside for them. So they described it as Apple has a way to actually navigate the tariffs. Better than expected. So that's like the week-to-week thing. One week you're going to hear Apple can navigate tariffs. This week you're going to hear that it's going to be an EPS shave. So, I think longer term, you still have a 5G cycle to look forward to. Me personally, I've been nursing an iPhone 7 Plus since it came out. I'm ready for that 5G cycle. I think there's going to be a lot of upgrades when that happens, both in the U.S. and abroad. So I still think long term, you got to own it. You can't trade it. It's too hard.
And they've got that September event coming up later this month, so it's one of those things to keep an eye on, right?
Right, yeah, and that's going to be focused on the Apple Watch, and the Apple Watch is the best-selling wearable device out there. So I still think there's a lot to like, but again, it's in the crosshairs, so you're just constantly battling. You're just going to be battling yourself, trying to figure out when's the right time to trade it. So that's why we say own it.
Let's look at the general markets. Around 10:02 a.m., we're down about 300 points on the Dow. What headlines are you paying attention to right now?
I think it's trade. I think it will be trade until you see some type of ceasefire. Obviously there might be some selling today because the tariffs were officially put in place. I think to have expected some type of positive breakthrough over the long weekend would have been a little bit of wishful thinking. But again, the tariffs, we knew that they were going to be put in place today. I do see the market spiked lower, so I am curious what that latest bit of news is on. But I still think it's going to be trade. It's going to be trade until we see some type of breakthrough.
And the Donald Trump tweets won't be enough for the market to come back, you don't think?
Well, that it plays to both sides, and that thought's always there. Obviously, if he sees the Dow down, a certain amount as we saw last weekend, he could put out a tweet saying talks are good. But at the same time, he was saying this morning that he wants to do what he can to crush the China supply chain. So you got to fight through the noise. You got to fight through the noise right now.
Speaking of fighting through the noise, there's a lot to handle when you're just a regular retail investor and you're looking at a market that's down 200 points one day and up 200 points the next day, and that cycle just keeps repeating itself for the last couple of weeks. So what should investors do now, especially with the September 1st tariffs on the table?
Yeah, you can't panic. You got to block out the noise. Again, I'm sure there's a lot of investors out there who are saying these tariffs are put on in place, just get me out. I don't think that's the right way to think about it. I think that there's still interesting opportunities to play on stocks that were beaten on tariffs. Like I go back to Burlington Stores last week that reported it's an Action Alerts Plus name. It reported an absolutely phenomenal quarter. That stock was getting hit every time there was tariff news, even though they had no exposure to tariffs. And they really put it together this quarter, really strong comms, raised guidance. So there's still opportunities out there. I don't think just because tariffs are put in place, you have to sell everything. I don't think that's the right move.
Now, of course, one of the other big headlines impacting the globe today is Hurricane Dorian, which made landfall in the Bahamas over the weekend. Our thoughts are with everyone who's being impacted by Hurricane Dorian. It is on its way to the U.S. It's expected to at least get near Florida by end of day today. With a hurricane, what stocks are you watching?
Yeah, so first off, my thoughts go out to anyone who will or has been impacted by the hurricanes already. They're always devastating. It's always a tough time of year, this time of year. But that being said, there's always a couple stocks that tend to see a comp lift from them. I would look at the auto parts stocks, so that's going to be like AutoZone, O'Reilly, Advanced Auto Parts, ticker symbol AAP, not Action Alerts Plus, ticker symbol AAP, because there's always some type of vehicle destruction that takes place, and so you'll see a little pickup in business from in the car auto parts market. Do-it-yourself home the home retailers, so like Home Depot, Lowe's. There's always new construction that needs to take place with houses, unfortunately. So you'll see some spending kind of pick up in there. And then also this is another one that really they've been offended from Hurricane Harvey a couple years ago. I'm not sure how much exposure there is really more will be the Florida region versus Texas Hurricane Harvey. But waste management, there's always a lot of debris that tends to occur from these hurricanes, from the devastation, and that's good business for them. And if you look at the 5-year chart on waste management, that has been one great stock. So they may not even need the hurricanes because there's always waste creation, unfortunately. So that's another one to watch, though.
All right, Jeff, thank you so much for all of your insight. All right, guys, if you're watching on TheStreet.com or on Facebook, we are now heading over to our Action Alerts Plus daily rundown show over on ActionAlertsPlus.com. I'm Katherine Ross, and I'll see you tomorrow.